The UN Venture drifted through the silent darkness of space, its sleek metal hull reflecting the faint glow of a distant star. Captain Elias Carter sat in the command chair, studying the holographic display in front of him. A distress signal had appeared on their sensors just minutes ago, an unknown frequency coming from an uncharted planet in the Andromeda expanse. "Are we sure it's not a trap?" asked Lieutenant Sarah Vaughn, the ship's second in command. Elias glanced at her. "That's what we're here to find out." He turned to the navigation officer. "Marcus, bring us in closer. Keep shields up, just in case." The Venture descended into the planet's thin atmosphere, its engines humming softly. Below them stretched an endless landscape of jagged rock formations and glowing rivers of blue liquid. The distress signal led them to a massive structure, something between a temple and a fortress, made of smooth, dark material that seemed almost alive. "This place doesn't look abandoned," Marcus muttered, his fingers hovering over the controls. Elias nodded. "Let's go in." He and his team, clad in armored exploration suits, stepped onto the surface. The air was thin but breathable. A large entrance loomed ahead, carved into the strange stone. As they approached, the doors slid open with a whispering sound, revealing a dimly lit corridor lined with pulsating organic walls. "This is weird," Sarah said, glancing around. They moved forward cautiously, weapons holstered but ready. The deeper they went, the warmer the air became. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls, shifting as if they were alive. Then, at the end of the hallway, they entered a vast chamber. Elias froze. At the center of the chamber sat a massive figure, an alien queen unlike anything they had ever seen. She was tall, her insect-like body shimmering under the bioluminescent glow of the room. Her exoskeleton was a deep metallic violet, and her eyes, large and glowing, studied them with something between curiosity and hunger. But it was not her appearance that made them tremble. It was her voice. "I must feed. Can you satisfy me?" The whisper was not spoken aloud. It echoed inside their minds, crawling into their thoughts like a gentle yet inescapable tide. Sarah took a step back. "Captain, this thing is speaking directly into our heads." Elias swallowed hard but held his ground. "Who are you?" he asked. "Are you the one who sent the distress signal?" The queen tilted her head, her mandibles clicking softly. "Yes, I called. You have come." Marcus gripped his rifle. "Called us for what?" "A meal." The queen's glowing eyes flickered. "Not as you think." Elias felt an odd sensation, his thoughts being touched, searched. Memories flashed before his mind's eye. The day he'd first piloted a starship, the cold emptiness of space, the laughter of his younger sister before he left Earth. Then, just as quickly, the sensation vanished. The queen let out a deep sigh. "You carry great potential," she said, "but it is not enough." Elias exhaled, his hands tightening into fists. "Enough for what?" The queen leaned forward. "I do not feast upon flesh. I do not drain blood. I do not crave destruction." Her voice was calm, almost sorrowful. "I am the last of my kind. My people's strength did not come from weapons, but from knowledge, from thought, from the energy of minds. Without it, I wither." Sarah exchanged a glance with Elias. "She's saying she eats thoughts." The queen's mandibles twitched in what might have been a nod. "Memories, emotions, intelligence. They sustain me as your food sustains you." Elias took a slow breath. "And if you don't get what you need?" The chamber darkened slightly, the walls pulsing slower. "Then I fade, and with me, the last memory of my people is lost." A heavy silence filled the air. Marcus frowned. "Captain, we have no idea what she really is. What if she's lying?" Sarah hesitated. "But what if she's telling the truth?" Elias stared at the queen. Her presence was powerful, yet there was no sense of malice, only desperation. He had met many species in his years of space travel, but none had ever begged for survival in such a way. He made his decision. How do we feed you? The queen's glowing eyes locked onto him. Step forward and open your mind. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. He wasn't sure what would happen next. But one thing was certain. Humanity had just stepped into something far greater than themselves. Elias Carter took a cautious step forward, feeling the weight of every gaze behind him. His crew, Sarah, Marcus, and the rest, watched in tense silence as he approached the massive alien queen. The glowing patterns on the walls pulsed gently, as if sensing his movement. The queen remained motionless, her large, luminous eyes fixed on him. The whisper in his mind returned. You hesitate, human. Do you fear me? Elias swallowed hard but didn't step back. I don't fear you, but I don't trust you either. The queen's mandibles twitched slightly. Was it amusement? Annoyance? It was impossible to tell. Trust is built with time. Time is what I do not have. Elias glanced at his team, then back at the queen. You said you don't feed on flesh. You need knowledge, emotions, memories. If I let you into my mind, what will you take? The queen's head tilted slightly. I will not take. I will experience. I will feel what you feel. See what you see. Your memories will remain yours. Elias hesitated. It was a dangerous gamble. If she was lying, he could be handing over his very soul. But if she was telling the truth, she was the last of her kind, the last memory of an entire civilization. He had seen too many species lost to war, to time, to extinction. Could he really let another one disappear without trying? Taking a slow breath, Elias nodded. Do it. The queen's massive form leaned closer. The air around her shimmered, and suddenly, the darkness vanished. Elias was no longer in the chamber. He was standing on a grassy hill under an alien sky, twin suns burning above him. He gasped, looking around. The air was thick with the scent of flowers he had never smelled before. Strange, towering trees stretched toward the sky, their glowing leaves swaying despite the lack of wind. A city stood in the distance, elegant golden spires rising into the heavens. It was like nothing humanity had ever built, but Elias somehow knew what it was. The capital of the Queen's people. Do you see, human? The voice echoed in his mind, but it was not coming from behind him. It was all around him. This is your world, he whispered. The Queen's voice was softer now. It was. Elias turned, and suddenly, the world shifted. The bright sky darkened. The golden spires crumbled. Fire and ash filled the air. The ground trembled as massive shadows moved in the distance. Things Elias could not quite see, but could feel. A deep, hollow hunger filled the air. The Queen's voice carried sorrow. They came from the void. They did not want land. They did not want war. They wanted us, our minds, our knowledge, our thoughts. They fed on what made us who we were, and when we were empty, they left us to crumble. Elias staggered as the vision faded, and suddenly, he was back in the chamber. He gasped for air, his body trembling. His mind felt stretched, like he had lived through centuries in just a few seconds. His crew rushed forward. Captain, are you all right? Sarah gripped his shoulder. Elias blinked, his heart pounding. The Queen was still in front of him, watching. Her eyes, once dim, now glowed slightly brighter. I saw it, he whispered. I saw everything. Sarah frowned. What are you talking about? Elias turned to her, her world, her people. They were wiped out by something that feeds on thought, on intelligence. He looked back at the Queen. You weren't just asking for food. You were asking for survival. The Queen's voice was softer this time. Now you understand. Marcus stepped forward. Captain, we don't know if what she showed you was real. It could have been a trick. Elias clenched his jaw. I don't think it was. Sarah looked at the Queen warily. But you're still hungry, aren't you? The Queen nodded. What you gave was a sip, a taste. But I need more. Marcus scowled. You're asking us to feed you our memories. What happens if we give too much? Do we forget who we are? The Queen's gaze was unreadable. You will not forget, but you will feel drained, only for a time. Elias rubbed his temples. He already felt exhausted, as if he had run for miles without stopping. And he had only given her a glimpse. How much do you need? He asked carefully. The Queen was silent for a moment. Then she spoke. Enough to become strong again. Enough to fight what is coming. Elias stiffened. Fight? You mean the things that destroy your world? The Queen's eyes dimmed slightly. They are not gone. They move in the dark. And soon, they will come for you. Silence filled the chamber. Sarah's face paled. You're saying, we're next. The Queen's whisper was almost a sigh. Yes. A cold chill ran through Elias's body. If she was telling the truth, humanity was in danger. The threat beyond anything they had ever known was already moving toward them, and the only thing standing between them and annihilation was a starving queen who needed their minds to survive. Elias took a deep breath. He knew what had to be done. We feed her, he said. Marcus stared at him. Are you serious? Elias turned to his crew. I've seen what's out there. If we don't help her, we might not have a future. He looked back at the Queen. Tell us how. The Queen's glowing eyes flickered. Come forward and open your mind once more. Elias stepped closer. And the feeding began. Elias Carter took a deep breath, steadying himself as he stood before the alien Queen. His mind still felt stretched from the first connection, the echoes of her lost world lingering in his thoughts. He could still hear the distant screams, the fading voices of an entire civilization consumed by an unseen enemy. Now she asked for more. His crew stood behind him, tense and uncertain. Captain, are you sure about this? Sarah asked, her voice laced with concern. The last time, you barely stayed on your feet. Elias turned to face them. I know the risks, he said, but she's our only chance to understand what's coming. If we don't help her, we might not be able to stop it. Marcus crossed his arms. Yeah. And what if we feed her so much that she turns into something we can't stop? The Queen's voice whispered into their minds again, calm yet heavy. I do not seek power to harm you. I seek only to live and to warn. Elias sighed. There was no more time to debate. We do this carefully, he said. If something feels wrong, we stop. Sarah hesitated, then nodded. All right, Captain. But if I think you're in danger, I'm pulling you out. Elias gave a small smile. Fair deal. Then he turned back to the Queen. I'm ready. The alien Queen lowered her head, her glowing eyes locking onto his. Then open your mind, human, and let me in. The world around Elias shifted. He was no longer in the chamber, no longer on his ship. He stood in the middle of an endless, shimmering void, surrounded by floating fragments of light. Memories, his own, the Queen's, and something far older, stretching back through the history of the universe itself. The first memory hit him like a wave. He was a child, sitting by the window of a small house on Earth, staring at the stars. His mother's voice was soft behind him, telling him stories of the first explorers who left the planet, who reached beyond the solar system in search of the unknown. Then the memory shifted. He was older now, standing at the helm of his first ship. The moment he took off, breaking free from a planet's gravity, feeling the rush of pure freedom. The dream he had chased since childhood had finally come true. Another shift. He was in battle, fire and alarms blaring as his ship was hit. The weight of command, the pressure of decisions that meant life or death. The moment he lost his first crew member, the grief that never really faded. The Queen's voice surrounded him. You have seen much, felt much. You are strong, Elias Carter. Elias gasped as the vision slowed. He was himself again, floating in the strange void, surrounded by memories like distant stars. "Is it enough?" he asked, his voice breathless. There was silence. Then, slowly, the Queen whispered, "More." Outside, Sarah and Marcus watched anxiously as Elias remained motionless, his breathing shallow. A faint glow surrounded him, pulsing in rhythm with the Queen's eyes. Sarah gritted her teeth. "This has gone on too long. We need to stop this before." Elias suddenly staggered back, gasping. Marcus grabbed his arm, steadying him. "Captain, what happened?" Elias shook his head, his mind still spinning. His memories felt untouched but exposed, as if someone had gently opened the pages of his life and studied them. He turned to the Queen, whose eyes glowed brighter now. "You took more than I expected," Elias muttered. The Queen's voice was softer this time. "You gave more than you know, and in return, I give you truth." The chamber dimmed, and suddenly, the walls shifted. Images appeared, like moving shadows cast by an unseen light. The crew watched in stunned silence as an ancient battle played out before them. Towering beings, monstrous and featureless, moved through space, their forms shifting like living darkness. Planets withered as they passed, not destroyed by weapons, but emptied, left as hollow shells with no trace of life or intelligence. Elias felt a chill creep up his spine. "What are they?" The Queen's whisper was almost sorrowful. "The Void Maw." Marcus frowned. "Void what?" The Queen's gaze did not waver. "They do not take land. They do not take resources. They take thought. They consume intelligence, drain minds until nothing remains." Elias clenched his fists. "That's what happened to your people, isn't it? They took everything from you." The Queen nodded. Sarah took a shaky breath. "And now they're coming for us." A long pause. Then the Queen's whisper came again, softer than before. "They are already here." Silence fell over the chamber. The weight of her words crushed the air from their lungs. Elias finally spoke. "How do we stop them?" The Queen closed her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them again, the glow in them was stronger. "Feed me more, and I will show you." Elias exhaled. His legs felt weak, his mind still buzzing from the last connection. But he knew what had to be done. "I can't do it alone," he admitted. He turned to Sarah and Marcus. "I need your help." Marcus scowled. "This is insane." Sarah hesitated, looking between Elias and the Queen. Then she squared her shoulders. "If this is real, if those things are really coming, we don't have a choice." Elias nodded, then looked at Marcus. "What's it gonna be?" Marcus sighed, rubbing his face. "Damn it. Fine. But if I wake up and forget who I am, I'm blaming you." The Queen's eyes brightened. "Then come, humans. Let us begin." Elias took a deep breath as he and his crew stepped forward, and the feeding continued. Elias Carter closed his eyes, feeling the pull of the alien Queen's mind once more. This time, he wasn't alone. Sarah and Marcus stood beside him, their expressions uncertain but determined. "Ready?" Elias asked, glancing at them. Sarah nodded, though her hands were clenched into fists. "Let's get this over with." Marcus exhaled sharply. "If I wake up drooling, I'm blaming you, Captain." Elias smirked. "Noted." Then he turned to the Queen. "We're ready." The Queen's glowing eyes brightened. "Then open your minds, humans, and let the truth be known." A wave of energy surged through the chamber, and suddenly, the world shifted. Elias, Sarah, and Marcus were no longer on their ship. They stood on the edge of an alien battlefield, floating high above a ruined world. The sky was cracked and dark, filled with shifting shadows that moved unnaturally. Below them, what remained of a once great civilization burned. Elias turned his head and gasped. They weren't alone. Beside them, thousands of alien figures, Tall, elegant beings with glowing skin stood watching the destruction. The Queen's people. And then, the Maw arrived. Darkness rolled into the sky like ink in water. From the void, they emerged, massive creatures without form, shifting between monstrous shapes. They moved without sound, their presence alone suffocating. Elias shuddered. Something inside him screamed that these things were wrong, not just dangerous, but unnatural, as if they weren't meant to exist. The Queen's whisper filled the air. The Maw do not kill with weapons. They do not need to. They feed on thought, on knowledge, on memory itself. They leave nothing behind. Elias could only watch in horror as the battle unfolded. The Queen's people fought back, unleashing brilliant energy from their hands, their minds, their technology. But it was useless. The Void Maw did not burn. They did not shatter. They absorbed. The energy attacks faded as soon as they touched the darkness. The soldiers screamed as their bodies withered. No, not their bodies. Their minds. They forgot how to fight. Then they forgot why they were fighting. Then they forgot themselves. And one by one, they collapsed. Sarah clutched Elias's arm, her voice a whisper. This is a nightmare. The Queen's voice was softer now. It is my past, and it may be your future. Elias clenched his fists. How do we stop them? The vision shifted. Now, they stood in a massive golden hall, the Queen's throne room, before it was abandoned. A group of her people sat around a glowing artifact, their faces grave. The Queen, younger and strong, stood among them. We cannot defeat them, her past self said, but we can resist. We can hide our minds from them. We can make ourselves unseen. One of the elders shook his head. The cost will be great. The Queen's expression was solemn. The cost of doing nothing is greater. The vision faded. Elias and his crew were back in the chamber. Their bodies felt weak, their minds buzzing with everything they had seen. Marcus groaned, rubbing his temples. Okay, that was awful. Sarah swallowed hard. We can't fight these things. Nothing can. Elias turned to the Queen, his heart still racing. You said your people found a way to resist. How? The Queen's whisper came slowly. We created a shield, not of metal or energy, but of the mind. A way to hide our thoughts, our intelligence, a way to become invisible. Marcus frowned. So you didn't beat them. You just made them think you weren't there. The Queen nodded. Sarah's face paled. But that means they're still out there. Somewhere. A heavy silence filled the chamber. Elias's mind raced. The Void Maw hadn't been defeated. They had just moved on, searching for new prey. And now, they had found humanity. He turned to the Queen. Can we use the same shield? The Queen's eyes dimmed slightly. It took my people centuries to master. Your kind does not have that time. Elias exhaled sharply. Then we find another way. Sarah shook her head. Captain, we barely understand what we just saw. How can we fight something that doesn't even work like anything we faced before? Elias thought for a moment. Then, an idea struck him. You said they consume intelligence, right? He asked the Queen. The Queen nodded. Yes, it is their hunger. Elias's jaw tightened. Then what happens if we give them something they can't digest? Marcus blinked. Wait. Are you suggesting? What, a trap? Elias nodded. A virus, a mental weapon. If they feed on thought, we give them something designed to break them apart from the inside. Sarah's eyes widened. Like a poison for the mind. The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then her voice came, thoughtful. A dangerous idea, human, but not impossible. Elias straightened. Then let's make it happen. The Queen's eyes glowed brighter now, a new energy within them. Then feed me more, Elias Carter. I will show you the way. Elias took a deep breath and stepped forward once more. Elias Carter steadied himself, feeling the weight of his decision. His mind was still reeling from the Queen's memories, from the horrifying truth of the Void Maw. Beings that consumed not just bodies but thoughts, intelligence, everything that made a species what it was. Now he had a plan, a risky one, a mental virus, a poison crafted not for the body, but for the mind. Something that, if done right, could turn the Maw's hunger against them. He turned to the alien Queen, her glowing eyes watching him closely. "Can you help us create it?" he asked. The Queen remained silent for a long moment. Then her voice whispered through their minds. "It is possible, but it is dangerous." Marcus scoffed, arms crossed. "Yeah, no kidding. You're talking about using some kind of thought weapon against things that eat thoughts." Sarah exhaled sharply. "If we get this wrong, we could be giving them something stronger, something that makes them worse." Elias understood their concerns, but there was no time for fear. "I know the risk, but if we do nothing, we lose everything anyway." He turned to the Queen. "What do we need to do?" The Queen's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. "I must feed once more, but not just on memory." Elias frowned. "Then on what?" "Imagination." A chill ran down his spine. Sarah hesitated. "Wait, you don't mean—" The Queen's voice was soft but firm. "Creativity. The spark of invention. It is the one thing the Maw do not have, the one thing they cannot create for themselves." Marcus let out a low whistle. "So, you're saying, we don't just make a weapon, we imagine one. And that's what you'll feed on." The Queen nodded. Elias felt his heart pound. He had spent his whole life as an explorer, a captain, a leader, but now he had to be something else, a creator. "We all have to do this together," he said, looking at his crew. "We have to think of something they won't see coming, something they can't understand." Sarah bit her lip. "Something alien to them." Elias gave a small, determined smile. "Exactly." The Queen's voice was approving. "Then open your minds and create." The world around them shifted. This time, it was not a memory. It was something new. Elias stood in a vast, endless space, filled with shifting shapes, thoughts forming and breaking apart like living constellations. Sarah and Marcus appeared beside him, their minds linked in this strange realm of creation. The Queen was there too, her presence like a guiding light. "Imagine," she urged. "Shape your ideas." Elias took a deep breath. What kind of weapon could destroy something that fed on thought? The answer came suddenly. A paradox. Something the Void Maw could not consume because it had no true form. A thought that could not be understood. Sarah gasped beside him. "Captain, I see it." Marcus frowned. "See what?" Elias smiled. A question with no answer. Marcus blinked. "Huh." Sarah's eyes widened. "Wait. That's brilliant. If the Maw feed on intelligence, then what happens when they try to consume something that makes no sense?" Elias turned to the Queen. "Can you do it? Can you shape this into something real?" The Queen was silent for a long time. Then her whisper came. "Yes." The space around them began to shift, the paradox forming, not as an object, not as a weapon in the traditional sense, but as a concept. A question that could never be answered, a problem that could never be solved. Something the Maw would try to consume, but could never digest. It would trap them in an endless loop, a hunger they could never satisfy. The Queen's presence grew stronger. "It is done." Elias gasped as he was pulled back into reality. The chamber around him returned, the cold metal walls, the hum of the ship. Sarah and Marcus staggered, catching their breath. The Queen stood before them, her form brighter than before. Stronger. Elias wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Did it work?" The Queen nodded. "The thought weapon is real. It exists within me now." Sarah shuddered. "And now what?" The Queen's voice was calm but firm. "Now, we give it to them." Elias felt a chill run down his spine. The Maw were already here, somewhere in the galaxy, searching. Now, for the first time, they would not be the hunters. They would be the prey. Elias Carter felt the weight of the moment pressing down on his chest. They had done the impossible. They had created something that could not be consumed, a thought weapon in the form of a paradox, an unanswerable question that would trap the Void Maw in an endless cycle of hunger. But now came the hardest part, delivering it. The alien queen stood before them, her glowing eyes filled with an energy that hadn't been there before. She was stronger now, fueled by the very idea they had created. "It is time," she whispered. "The Maw are close." Marcus let out a slow breath. "You mean, they've already found us?" Sarah's hands clenched into fists. "Then we don't have much time." Elias turned to his crew. "This has to work. If they sense what we've done and realize it's a trap, we're finished." The Queen nodded. "That is why I will be the one to carry it." Elias frowned. "What do you mean?" "I will be the bait." The room fell silent. Sarah's eyes widened. "Wait, you want them to take you?" The Queen's voice remained calm. "They will come for me, thinking I am still weak, still starving. They will not know what I carry within my mind until it is too late." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "And what happens to you?" The Queen was silent for a moment before saying, "It does not matter." Elias stepped forward, his jaw tight. "It matters to me." The Queen's glowing eyes softened slightly. "Your kindness is rare, human. But my people are gone. I exist only as a memory of what was lost." Elias shook his head. "That's not true. You're alive. And that means there's still hope for your future." The Queen studied him for a long time. Then she whispered, "Perhaps." Sarah took a deep breath. "How do we do this?" The Queen turned toward the ship's control panel. "You will send out a distress signal. A fake one. The Maw will sense it and come, believing they have found easy prey." Elias nodded. "And when they take you, the paradox will begin." The Queen nodded. "Yes, and they will never escape it." Marcus ran a hand through his hair. "This is insane. We're just gonna sit here and wait for these things to take her." Elias's face was grim. "We don't have a choice. If we fight them, we lose. If we run, they'll keep chasing us. This is the only way." Marcus exhaled sharply. "All right, let's do it." 30 minutes later, the ship's distress signal pulsed through space. It was weak, designed to mimic a damaged human vessel. A lure. Elias stood on the bridge, watching the scanners. His fingers tightened around the console. "Come on, take the bait." Then, a disturbance. A deep shadow flickered on the screen. No ships. No sound. No movement. But something was there. Sarah's breath hitched. "They're here." Marcus whispered, "I feel it." The air itself seemed heavier, as if unseen hands were pressing down on them. The lights dimmed slightly. The Maw were watching. Elias's heart pounded. He turned to the Queen. "Are you ready?" The Queen's glowing eyes met his. "Yes." She stepped forward, standing in the center of the bridge. Her body shimmered as if becoming less solid, more like pure energy. And then, the ship shook. A cold force swept through the room, pulling at them like an invisible tide. The Queen's form flickered as if caught in a current. Sarah gasped. "They're taking her." Elias's jaw clenched. "Hold steady." The Queen's voice whispered into his mind one last time. "You have given me purpose once more, Elias Carter. Thank you." And then she vanished. The cold presence in the ship disappeared with her. For a long moment, silence. Marcus exhaled. "It's done." Sarah shivered. "I feel empty, like something's missing." Elias stared at the spot where the Queen had stood, his mind racing. "Now we wait." Marcus shook his head. "For what?" Elias turned to the window, looking out into the dark void of space. for them to realize they've made a mistake. The bridge of the ship was silent. Elias Carter, Sarah, and Marcus stood frozen, staring at the empty space where the Queen had vanished. She was gone, taken by the Void Maw, carrying with her the most dangerous thought ever created, a paradox that could never be solved. Now, all they could do was wait. The ship's scanners showed nothing. No movement, no energy signatures, only the vast darkness of space. Marcus shifted uneasily. "You think it's working?" Sarah frowned. "I don't know. The Maw don't communicate like we do. They don't send signals. They don't talk. How will we even know if they're—" The ship shook. A deep, unnatural vibration rippled through the metal, as if space itself had been disturbed. The air felt heavy, pressing against their chests. The lights flickered. Elias's heartbeat quickened. They're reacting. Sarah gripped the control panel. But to what? Marcus's voice was tense. Maybe they're trying to digest it. Elias narrowed his eyes. That was the real question. The Maw consumed thoughts, absorbing them completely. But what happened when they tried to consume something that could not be understood? The ship shook again, harder this time. Then, a sound. Not a physical sound, but something deeper. A whisper at the edge of thought. A trembling pulse that was not meant for human minds. Sarah gasped, pressing her hands to her head. "It's them. There." The whisper grew louder. It wasn't words, but fragments, thoughts that didn't fit together. An impossible equation, a question without an answer. Marcus clutched his head. "I don't like this. It's like they're trying to think, but it's wrong." Elias gritted his teeth. The trap was working. The Maw had swallowed the Queen's mind, believing it to be just another source of intelligence. But now, deep within their formless existence, the paradox was unfolding. A hunger they could not satisfy. A loop they could never escape. For creatures that existed only to consume, it was the perfect poison. Sarah took a shaky breath. If this works, what happens to them? Elias exhaled. They starve. Marcus blinked. "Wait, you mean?" Elias nodded. The Maw have never encountered something they couldn't absorb. But now, they have. And they'll keep trying, over and over, forever. The ship trembled again, but this time, it was different. The presence of the Maw, the overwhelming feeling of being watched, of being hunted, was fading. Marcus hesitated. Are they leaving? Sarah checked the scanners. Her eyes widened. They're dissolving. Elias stepped forward. What? Sarah turned to him, disbelief in her eyes. They're breaking apart. Their energy is collapsing in on itself. It's like they don't know how to exist anymore. Elias's breath caught. They were unraveling. Without an answer, without a way to complete their endless cycle of feeding, the Maw were falling apart from the inside. And then, silence. The ship's systems stabilized. The lights returned to normal. The cold, pressing weight in the air was gone. Sarah whispered, "It's over." Marcus let out a slow breath. We won. Elias stared out the window into the endless void. The Maw were gone. Or at least, they were no longer something that could threaten the universe. Instead, they had become their own prison. A trap of their own making, forever chasing something they could never consume. The hunger that would never end. The aftermath. For a long moment, none of them spoke. The ship floated in space, untouched. The danger was gone. But at what cost? Sarah looked at Elias. The Queen, do you think she's still? Elias's jaw tightened. I don't know. She had been the one to carry the paradox, the one to lure the Maw into their own downfall. Had she survived? Or had she been lost with them? Marcus sighed. She knew what she was doing. Elias nodded. Yeah, she did. But still, a part of him hoped. The Queen had been more than just a survivor. She had been something greater. A remnant of a species lost to the Maw. A being that had once fed on thoughts and memories, but had chosen to create instead of destroy. Elias clenched his fist. She deserved more. Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder. She saved all of us. Elias exhaled, letting the tension leave his body. Yes, she had. And now, the universe was safe. The maw, the nightmare that had consumed entire civilizations, was no more. It was over. A faint whisper. As Elias turned away from the window, a voice echoed softly in his mind. A whisper. I am not gone. Elias froze. Sarah and Marcus turned to him, confused. Captain. Elias blinked. He wasn't sure if he had imagined it, but deep in his heart he knew. Somewhere, somehow, the Queen had survived. And that meant that even after everything, after all the loss, all the danger, there was still hope.